What is the funniest adult innuendo from a childhood movie you didn't catch as a kid? In The Grinch there's a scene where they explain that two babies are delivered to their parents from the sky in baskets with umbrellas. One of the baskets lands in front of a house and the dad finds it and yells something like, "Honey, our baby's here." And then he takes a puzzled look at the baby and says, "Looks just like your boss." In the movie Quest for Camelot, when the main character meets the two-headed dragon for the first time, he asks what they are. They respond, "The best reason why cousins shouldn't get married." My dad's favorite line from any movie ever. Didn't get it for years. Space Jam, when the therapist asking if there's anywhere else he has trouble performing and getting an emphatic no from Patrick. Took me a couple years before it dawned on me. Late to the party, but in Robots, the father is running down the street yelling, "I'm gonna be a dad," because his son is about to be born. When he gets home, a delivery truck is just leaving, and his wife says, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry, you missed the delivery." But that's okay, making the baby is the fun part, and holds up the box they are given with the parts to build their child with. In Hocus Pocus, when the witches are getting onto the bus and Winifred tells the bus driver that they desire children, and the bus driver replies, "Hey, that may take me a couple of tries, but I don't think it'll be a problem. I watched it recently and was like, yee, that joke flew the frick over my head during my entire childhood." In Space Jam, Bugs Bunny acts like a wooden board after Lala flirts with him. Did not understand that until much later. The intro to Road to El Dorado, when the two armadillo jump behind a bush and the bush shakes violently for 5 seconds, then an entire family of armadillo jump out. In Goonies, when they're trying to glue the statue's deck back on, Mickey says, "Guys, that's my mom's favorite piece." Mouth says, "You wouldn't be here if it wasn't the first time it clicked for me. I nearly pissed myself." In Aladdin and the King of Thieves, when the thieves raid the wedding, the ground is shaking because of a stampede, and the genie says, "I thought the ground wasn't supposed to shake until the honeymoon." Edit, fixed the movie name. Hercules Disney, when Hercules first meets Megan the River Guardian. Pardon me, my good. Looks in direction of RG genitalia, sir. I'll have to ask you to release that young. Looks toward Meg. Keep moving, Junior Herc. Lady. In Wallace and Gromit, Wallace is stripped of his clothes and his manhood is only covered by a box. The box may contain nuts printed on the side. Rocko's Modern Life. They had a restaurant called the Choky Chicken, a game called Spank the Monkey, and at one point Rocko worked as a 6-line operator. Mrs. Big Head calls in, and he is saying, oh baby, with a sign behind him that says, "Remember, be hot, be naughty, be courteous." They weren't even trying to hide it, and it still took me 15 years later to realize the implication that Ms. Piggy and Long John Silver had a sexual history in Muppet Treasure Island. Hello, Luang John. In The Great Muppet Caper, there is a scene in a restaurant where Gonzo is going from table to table hawking souvenir photos to get cash. He goes to a table where an old man is sitting with a hot young woman. He offers a photo and the man declines. Gonzo says, "ITD, make a great memento for you and your wife." The man says, "My wife isn't feeling very well." Gonzo looks at the woman sympathetically and says, "Oh, that's too bad. Maybe she should be at home." The man angrily says, "My wife is at home." Gonzo stammers awkwardly, Next table, totally confused me as a kid. Shrek, so that's Farquaad's castle. Donkey, yep, that's the place. Shrek, do you think he might be compensating for something? Later in the movie Fiona, you know what? Stop it, both of you. You know you're just jealous that you'll never measure up to a great ruler like Lord Farquaad. Shrek, well, princess, maybe you're right. But I'll let you do the measuring when you see him tomorrow. Or honestly anything from this movie. The scene in the original Ghostbusters, when a ghost unzips Dan Aykroyd's pants in the bedroom and a little something is implied. Never got it. Watched the movie as an adult before the remake was released and freaked out that I had watched that as a kid. Beauty and the Beast. The Beast is thinking of a gift for Belle. Hez asking Cogsworth for advice on what a man would give to a woman in the real world. Cogsworth. Flowers, chocolates, promises you don't intend to keep. Not really an innuendo, but definitely funnier now I'm older. The entirety of Rango. Like the scene where he has to explain how Rattlesnake Jake is his half brother. He says his mom had an interesting dating life. I can't believe no one's mentioned the veggie dildo joke in Ratatouille. In a scene where Linguini is caught hiding in the restaurant freezer and explains he was just familiarizing himself with the vegetables, Chef Skinner yells after him as he runs out, "One can get too familiar with vegetables, you know." In Jack Jack Attack, when Jack Jack's babysitter asked Syndrome what the S on his suit stand for, he said, "Sitter. Yeah, sitter. Originally I was gonna have initials for babysitter, but then I would be going around with a big BS, and you could understand why I couldn't go with that. I only understood that reference recently, haha. Oh man, that reminds me of something that happened to me when I was younger. Too similar not to share. We were visiting some family and my aunt's stepson had his shirt off and had some tattoos that I was curious about. I doubt I was older than 7 to 8, and he was old enough to have tattoos at least, probably early 20s, I'm not sure. This was the first time I'd ever met him. I pointed at the tattoo that looked like 2 of the letter S, but pointy and stylized, and said, "What does that one mean?" He said it stands for superstar, and I distinctly remember my aunt scolding him. I was confused because I didn't understand what was bad about a tattoo that stood for superstar. Didn't realize until several years later that he was a neo-Nazi and straight up had the SS logo tattooed on his chest. Epilogue. Apparently he had gotten really into the white nationalist stuff for a while, but later renounced it. Haven't seen him / heard anything about him in years. Wonder what he's up to now. In 101 Dalmatians, when Roger and Anita tell Cruella Deville that they were having kids, she replies with, "Well, accidents do happen." They followed up with the news that they're having puppies as well. Cruella replies with, "Well, you have been a busy boy, haven't you?" From Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when Cassie feels uncomfortable spending the night in the sewer, Donatello has claustrophobic. Cassie Jones. Hey, I've never looked at another man in my life. Ghostbusters 2. 1989 Egan. I'd like to perform a gynecological exam on the mother. Peter. Who old? 9-year-old me. Whoosh. I don't know if this counts, but in Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, after he gets bitten by the super spider and goes to bed, when he wakes up with enhanced vision and muscle tone, Aunt May asks him, "Any change?" Peter looks down his pants and replies, "Yeah, big change." From the recent Lego Batman movie Robin. My name's Richard Grayson. My friends call me Dick Batman. Yeah, kids can be cruel sometimes. My friends and I were the only ones laughing in the whole theater. In Osmosis Jones, there is a statue of a sperm cell with our founder engraved on it. Toy Story 3 Mr. Potato Head. Hey, nobody takes my wife's mouth except me. The Flash. I'm the fastest man alive. Hawk Girl, which might explain why you can't get a date. The Flash thinks about it for a moment. Hey. The Mask with Jim Carrey. Man, that movie is full of innuendos. To be fair, I was a very sheltered child. There's a scene where he is pulling balloons out of his pockets and making balloon animals. He reaches into one pocket and pulls out a used condom and says, "Oops, wrong pocket." I had no idea until I was probably on my 20s that it was a condom. So many more as well. Considering the source material of that movie, it's beyond tame. The comic is one of the most gloriously violent things in all existence. Emperor's New Groove. In the restaurant, while seated in a booth with Cusco in llama form, dressed as a woman, Pacho said, "We're on our honeymoon," and the waitress said, "Bless you for coming out in public."
N.
The Lion King. There's the part in Hakuna Matata and oh, the shame he was ashamed. Thought of Chang and my name, oh, what's in a name? And I got downhearted. How did you feel every time that I pummed? Not in front of the kids. Oh. Sorry, I very specifically remember not getting the joke and thinking to myself, it's probably dirty. I'll get it when I'm older. I totally didn't realize he was just going to say farted. Not exactly an innuendo, but in Hunchback of Notre Dame, there's an old man who starts in a cage. During the Feast of Fools, he gets freed, but falls into the stocks. Then during the final battle, he gets freed from the stocks, but falls down a manhole. The sign in front of the manhole says Monsieur. As a kid I didn't notice, but when I grew up and realized it's a French joke Monsieur, I laughed so hard. Think I was around 13 when Animaniacs came out. Watched it again in my 20s. That show was raunchy as frick. In The Incredibles, Syndrome saying that Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl got busy when he notices their kids. Or when Elastigirl tells Mr. Incredible that she's flexible. Or when she thinks he's having an affair. Or when she checks out her ass in the mirror. In Work at a Before and After School Care and the kids are obsessed with Boss Baby. There's a part where the kid says, Long Island does not know how to make an iced tea. Makes me laugh every time and the kids always look so confused as to why the staff are laughing. In the movie Hook, Pan and Rufio have an insult match and Pan calls him a nearsighted gynecologist. Did not get that till I was an adult. Bruce Wayne and Miss Kitka in the 1966 Batman movie, especially the carriage ride and the strategy leading to it. I've rarely met a girl host such a potent argument in favor of international relations.
Ed.
Ratatouille, in the scene in the back alley, has in her face ranting about a little. And her eyes absolutely flick down to his crotch. F-king marvelous. In Inside Out they're talking about bears and how it's silly to be afraid since you probably won't find one in San Francisco. Then one of the emotions says something like I saw a really hairy guy. He looked like a bear. Shrek, do you think has compensating for something? Awkward laugh while staring at Lord Farquaad's castle donkey. Doesn't understand children. Haha, it's because he's short. Me, laughing way more than I should be also. Just the name Farquaad. It's confirmed that that's the closest they could get to Frickwood. Classic. The Aristocaats. The whole part of the Scat Cat and the Alley Cats singing Everybody Wants to Be a Cat and later Duchess playing the harp, singing Blow a Little Soul, not sure if official title, but still is basically them flirting with her and her announcing Shs and Heat. Also, later, after Thief defeated Edgar and O'Malley is now living with them, Madame Bonfamille tells Duchess they need a man around the house, and tells her attorney, we must make sure to provide for their future little ones, to which the attorney chuckles and says, the more, the merrier. Earlier when O'Malley struts in and starts singing, has got his tail up, and has rubbing over some of the rocks and other stuff. Has marking the area as his territory, but also leaving his calling card as a suitor for Duchess. Bending the movie rules here, when SpongeBob is sitting in his living room watching real-life footage of a sponge dancing on his TV to some hip music, then Gary comes in and scares the shit out of him for peeping. Madagascar is full of adult innuendos. For example, Sugar Honey Iced Tea shit Alex's Planet of the Apes reference darn you all to heck. Or, my personal favorite, Alex's dream of steaks falling onto him is a direct reference to the rose petal dream that Kevin Spacey's character had in American Beauty, an adult drama reference of pedophilia in a kid's movie. In Home Alone 2, his uncle Frank said that he would be forced to grow up not feeling like a real man after seeing him in the shower, to which Kevin's dad laughs at. At the time I never got it. In The Grinch, at the beginning of the movie you can see all the people of Hoville going to a party and putting their keys in a bowl. Grease. Rizzo says I feel like a defective typewriter. Went right over my head. Updated with the punk line. I missed a period. Also, Wayne's World. When they are ordering takeout Wayne says, "It'll have the cream of some young guy." Had no clue what that meant. Bugs Bunny's cross-dressing. The everything in SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon. In the 1990 film Three Men and a Little Lady there's a scene where the head of a girl's school is talking to an architect while watching a marquee being put up. She says something like, "Not so splendid as one of your mighty erections I can imagine." I spat my drink out when I heard this as an adult. In Toy Story 3 I believe, when Barbie says to Ken nice ascot as he turns around and has an ascot tie around his neck. In The Car in the Hat, Cat finds a framed photo of the kid's mum and unfold an extra section from the bottom. When he sees it, his hat stands up. In Over the Hedge, Stella the skunk pretty clearly gives the domestic cat a blowjob when she's distracting him so the other animals can steal food from the house. In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, when Wonka put liquor into one of his creations and says candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. It's a very odd and hilarious movie.